Hi everyone, so today we're going to start painting our paintbrushes, and we're going to be using just regular acrylic paint for this. So I have a water cup nearby, I have a bunch of different brushes. The thing you want to keep in mind with your brushes is the different type of brush you use will have a different purpose. So the bigger brushes are for painting all over color, and the small detail brushes are for painting small details. You get to paint your brush however you'd like. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that we're going to be putting yarn down here. So the bottom part of your brush should match the yarn colors that you're going to do. You'll see how I do this. The only thing we're not painting is the back, just because you won't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start painting. As you go to, make sure that you don't get any paint stuck in the little holes, because this is where the yarn is going to go. So I'm just going to start painting. I'll fast forward through this part. When you switch colors, make sure you clean out the brush. These paints don't like water, so make sure your brush is as dry as possible. Please try not to mix in the palette, but if you want to mix right on your clay, you can. You can see too how I'm using one of the smaller detail brushes to really push the paint into the creases that I made into the clay. So use the correct brush for the correct thing. Perfect. So down on the bottom half is where you really kind of want to pay attention to the colors that you're using. So I'm going to put the color of paint near the hole that I want that same color of yarn. So for example, I'm going to paint red down by this hole because I want red coming out of this hole. And then I'll switch colors and do the same thing across. So your yarn is going to match the holes. So I'm going to do orange here. And I'm blending right on the clay. And then I think I'm going to do yellow after that. And then green, kind of following along with the rainbow. So that means the yarn coming out of each of these holes is going to match the color that's in front of it. So the red yarn will be here, the orange yarn will be here, the yellow yarn will be here, and the green yarn will be here to make it look like the paintbrush is actually painting. Perfect, so my brush is about done. I pulled some of the color up just because I thought it would look nice. Make sure you paint the sides and sides as well, everything but the back. We're gonna let this dry, and then if you want to, I have one extra step that we could do. As a last and final extra step, if you want to, I have a glitter glaze. So this will come out clear and it has a little bit of sparkle to it. You do not have to use this, but if you're interested, you're just gonna put this right over the top of the paint that you already have painted, and where it is painted, it will be shiny. So I'm going to do it all over just so it gives it that little bit of sparkle. Perfect, so I have my glaze on there, and I'm just kind of making sure there's no globs of it anywhere. We're going to let these dry, and then once they're dry, we're going to then add our yarn to the bottom. So now that my paintbrush is dry, what I want to do is show you how to get the yarn into the paintbrush. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut a piece of yarn about a foot long, and you're going to take it, and we want to get it through the holes going up from the back side. To help, I do have a bunch of different size of needles. So I've got some of the skinnier plastic ones and then a few thicker metal ones. What you want to do first is thread your needle, and the way you do this is I like to pinch the end and kind of flatten it out, and then stick it through the hole on the needle. Sometimes it'll kind of get caught, so make sure all the threads of your yarn go through that needle. I'm pulling it so that it's right in the middle of the yarn. And I'm gonna go from the back side up to the front. Now here's the hard part. If your holes are small, it's gonna be a little bit harder. So try to just wiggle it in there and do whatever you can. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull it through, but not all the way through. So now your needle's stuck here. We essentially want these to go through here, but your needle's in the way. So instead, what I want you to do is take your scissors and cut where your needle is. And now you have all of these strings coming through your paintbrush to make it look like it's flowy paint. If your hole is really big, what you can do is double knot these and knot them in place so that they don't move anywhere. Or you can just let them dangle if your holes are smaller. So I'm going to knot them here. And voila, there's my first color. I'm going to go all the way down the line doing the same thing with all the different colors. So next is orange. I'm going to thread the needle. Some of you also might be able to just stick them through the hole too if they're big enough. See what works best with your paintbrush. So thread your needle, go halfway. I'm sticking it through the back, pulling it through halfway, stopping, cutting, and knotting. Perfect, so I have all my strings tied on. Now I'm just gonna trim them so that they're all the same length. Let me zoom back out so you can see my final paintbrush. So I'm just gonna trim. And perfect, that's my finished paintbrush.